Hey,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Let me turn this up here so I can hear you. All right. Is that your studio?
This is, yes, my humble basement
That's
studio.
so awesome. Thank you for joining me. You're only my second friend slash guest that is um, has spoken with me so far in the
All
past.
right.
Because last week one of my guests she got sick, and obviously when people get sick these days they're like, oh my gosh, what is this? But she just had strep throat actually. Thank
Uh,
the Lord.
yeah,
So yeah, thank you for joining me. How are you doing? How are you? What's today? Tuesday? How's your Tuesday
today's
been?
Tuesday. I know all the days kind of, there's like no rhyme or reason to any of the days right now.
Exactly.
I'm good. We're good. My family and I have been, I think, finally kind of getting into a good routine of what working from home looks like. And when people say, like, I've heard a couple people say, like, oh yeah, like we have so much time on our hands or we're bored now that we can't go out or do this. And
Yeah.
like for me, it's just kind of been the opposite. I don't feel like I'm bored or have more time. It's like there's just more things to get done, you know?
Really?
So it's been good. I've actually enjoyed the time.
So yeah, like what do your days? Well, okay, wait. First of all, on these things, I wanted to like go through how I've met every friend I'm bringing on. So before I ask you anything more, can you explain how we met? Because it wasn't too long ago, and I'm sure a lot of people were there at the event that we met at. A lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. How we met. So I'm trying to remember when I even first like heard of who you were, like when I like
Yeah.
became aware of your existence. Um, I don't I feel like it was a while ago,
Yeah, I don't know when that was.
somewhere on social media, and then you had put out Surrender Song, and I saw someone post it, and I listened to it, and I was just like floored by that song. Um,
Thank you.
I
That's really
just,
sweet.
yeah, I mean, it was just so good, and it was just everything about it, lyrically, the melody, the production was just so refreshing. Um, to hear, and I just loved it. And so then I was like, then I started following you and kind of keeping up with what you were doing, and um, we started kind of, I think, messaging on
Yeah.
Instagram and whatnot. And then yeah, we ran into each other at NCYC, and
Yes.
had a great. I just really enjoyed that conversation and have been kind of just fostering a friendship and hopefully a writing at some point a writing friendship here
We
soon.
we've been trying to like to get a date to write during quarantine, and I feel like people would think that that's pretty easy during this time, but yeah, like you said, you're pretty busy, and I'm busier than I thought with a lot of things, which, like, praise God. I
Yeah.
didn't know I'd be busy being at home and doing stuff online. But yeah, hopefully we'll write. But I have always appreciated how from like the moment, yeah, I became aware of who you were, and we we started just like getting to know each other, you really just appreciate quality music, and you really look at the lyrics and you look at the melodies and you look at how not that being current is everything, but you kind of look at all of that type of stuff and you really appreciate it, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we connected, and
Yeah,
I was
we
just
totally
listening
we bonded over
um,
at NCYC for sure.
exactly at my booth. Yeah, no, that was great. So what are you actually doing? Like, I'm sure it changes every day, but what do your days look like during quarantine? Because mine are all over the place.
Yeah.
But I know you have your family,
Yeah.
um, and
So
you're doing
I
all your concerts, your live concerts.
yeah. So I mean I work full time too. So I my kind of like day job, so to speak, which gives me structure, is I work in nonprofit marketing. So I'm a director of marketing for a Catholic nonprofit called SPO, St. Paul's Outreach.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's awesome. It's a great ministry. It's the stuff I'm doing for them is all social media strategy, website stuff.
Okay.
Supporting the mission in the field from a graphic standpoint. And so that's kind of like that's, and usually I'm in an office doing that, but
Okay.
I'm home, so I work out of my studio. Um, so that's kind of my normal 9 to 5 with a lot of flexibility there to keep pursuing music um, and whatnot. So now that I'm home, it's kind of like I'm down here working that, but it gives me, since I'm home in my studio, it gives me the freedom to do things like this in the middle of the day, like these
Yeah.
kind of live stream conversations, or I've been doing as have you seen, maybe some of the other
Mhm.
people on here have seen, I started doing this thing called the house tour of my house tour. I just figured, being like, originally I'm an acoustic artist, so like I'm not an amazing producer by any means. And so when I
Mhm.
first started out, everything I wrote was on my acoustic guitar. And still, like when I sit down, the first thing I do is I pick up my guitar and try to find a melody or
Yeah.
whatever. And I was like, man, this could be a cool opportunity with not having shows played. This could be just a cool way to like go back to my roots. And I have a lot of people who've been following me from the very beginning, who are always like, we want your acoustic music, like we want to hear the old school tracks. And
Yeah.
so it's been fun. So we play, the whole premise of the tour is 3 nights a week. I guess 4, including Sunday. I play a different venue of my house. And so last night's show was from the back seat of our
Yeah.
minivan.
I saw that. I
Um,
was like, wow, that was unexpected.
I
I
was
like
looking,
tuned in.
when I planned this tour, I was looking forward to that show the most. I was like, at some point, I got to get in the back of the minivan.
Oh,
Um,
so funny.
so that's been cool. But funny enough, a lot of my time, so those shows are Monday, Wednesday, Friday nights, and Sunday mornings.
Hmm.
I've had to practice so much. Like, I've forgotten so many of my old songs.
Uh-huh.
And so like I'm down here, I'm in the living room with my girls, like playing and stuff, like trying to remember. And like my wife Katie will like shout out from the other room when I get the words wrong. She's like, no, like you say this instead. I'm like, oh man. So
That's amazing.
it's been pretty funny how like it's been really good for me to revisit these songs, but I've had to like relearn some of them.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm just trying to do something on a consistent basis because I think consistency, I learned when I was a youth minister, consistency is a huge thing just in general. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do a Facebook Live every Tuesday, and then I'll do an Instagram Live on Fridays for music for as long as all of this craziness lasts. And people have shouted out like different songs that I wrote basically when I was in college. So like not super long ago, but at least like 5 years ago. And it was on like these songs were on my first record that I do not listen to ever. I
Yeah.
hardly play music from that first record. We've spoken about this. I'm like, I don't know if I should be saying this on my Instagram, but I'm like, please don't listen to my first record,
Yeah.
Connor. Listen to the other stuff. Just because, I mean, I know I'm a better songwriter now, and I mean,
Right.
obviously. And so there's this one song, Lazarus, that like multiple people have been asking for, and I had no clue people listened to it. And people have asked for it 2 times, like on 2 different occasions during concerts, and I can't do it just like right off the bat. And so I have to practice it because I'll probably do it tonight. But
Yeah.
it's very, very funny. Have you been playing a lot of old songs? Because I know you're probably like me and you're like, I want to play my new songs because that's just what I'm excited about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so by the end of this tour, we'll have done 12 shows, and
Yeah.
each show is 3 songs a show.
Okay.
So 36 songs. That pretty much exhausts my catalog. That's
I don't have that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have that many songs. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I mean, it's almost, I'm gonna actually have to go back and count what's online, because I'm playing some songs too off of my first EP, which I actually took off streaming services. Like I removed it. Um, So that's why I'm like, I've kind of saved some of the songs that I remember the least for last, because I like need to practice them. But now that we're at the end of this tour, I'm like, dang, like I gotta like work on these. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I have been playing a bunch. I mean, I've been playing a bunch of my old songs, and it's also fun. A couple of my newer songs that weren't written on the guitar, like I did a song called IDK. I don't know. I just like wrote an acoustic version for it, which was really fun. And same with a song Nothing that I did last night. Like
I was just
that
listening to both of those. Oh, I somehow.
wow, that's a beautiful yard.
Yes.
Yeah, so like those 2 songs weren't written on the guitar, but it was then kind of fun to like pick up the guitar and say, oh hey, like what would this sound if I were to do this acoustically? So
Yeah. No, that's really cool. So for your shows, you're doing all the production for shows generally, right? Like you have the lights, you have the tracks that you're singing with, right? Do you ever really just play with your guitar, or like what do your shows look like when you're on the road and we can have more than 10 people in a room together?
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, we still do shows for only 10 people.
That's
I
true.
was gonna say, like, my
Every
live
artist has
show
done
for some of these venues, it's like, hey, they would fit with social distancing guidelines, you know, like when you're an indie artist just grinding it out, it's like, hey, that's what we get anyways,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Um, I
So good.
yeah, I mean, we bring the whole thing. So over the last couple of years, we've built out our own like light rig and sound, and so everything can fit within a minivan. We put all the seats down; it all fits in a minivan. And my whole goal is like I want to be able to roll up to like the dingiest, darkest like church basement or youth room and make it feel like an arena. Because
Yeah.
I don't want youth groups. We play a lot of churches, and I don't want to just be another lineup of like, hey, we had another speaker come through, or we had another worship leader come through, or we had another, like, I want kids to go home to their parents and be like, yo, we saw a concert tonight, and there was only 15 kids there, but like when you look at the stage setup, it's like, whoa, like they care, like it shows that I as an artist care about them, you know.
I get that. I was gonna say one of the first things I noticed too about you, which I really respect and admire, is that not a lot of people, but like there are definitely some people who just care way more about an event that has way more people, or an event that is more well known, or whatever it is, and they put more energy towards that. They're more excited about that. They post more about that versus 10 kids in a basement or whatever of a church.
Yeah.
And you put your all, like, it seems like you put your all into every single performance because you care about the people that are there, no matter what. And I don't know, I think God blesses people like that so much, just because their hearts are just pure, and he blesses hearts that are pure. So I don't know, I admire that about you, and I always try to be like that as well. But
yeah, I appreciate it. It's hard. I mean, it's such a give and take of, I'm not, maybe not give and take, but like, I don't know. I just live in this tension, and I'm sure you experience this too, of where it's like when you're an artist starting out and you're trying to make a name for yourself, you know, it's like you're so grateful for every opportunity. You're so grateful for every show. Like, I'm so grateful for the shows that we roll up and 10 people decided to come.
Yeah.
Because those 10 people could have watched Netflix. They could have spent their money somewhere else, you know, and they risked it on an unknown musician.
Yep.
But then you drive, you know, so you drive 8 hours to play that show, and then you drive the 8 hours home, and Katie always asks, she's like, how was the show? And I'm like, it was awesome. Like, it legitimately was awesome. I had a blast. My band had a blast. The kids had a blast. But there's always this like little, like, I just wish there were a few more people, you know, like I just wish. So it's like I'm so grateful, but like, come on, you know.
No,
like,
I get it. First of all, I just want to say, not fun free. Thank you so much for looking up my music. I'm glad you enjoy it. But yeah, I definitely think like that. I think what helped me a little bit is, gosh, not too long ago, I was going on a few tours with some Christian artists that are like on K-Love on the radio, and I got to open for them. And it was so interesting to see that even these people that are on like national radio, like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, like know their songs, whether they know it's like them singing it or they just know the song. And there were definitely shows. It was a lot of them were Christmas tours, but there were definitely a few shows where it was like there were like 50 people there. And I know like that might, if it's like a small room, that's awesome. And I love playing house shows and stuff, and that'll be a lot of people. But for these people who are on the radio, you know, every single day, and they had 50 or like 45, 50 maybe people at some shows, like that just made me feel, it just made me feel much better, because every single musician, especially since I've moved to Nashville, like we joke about, like if you haven't played a show for like 5 or 10 people, then are you really an artist? Because everybody has done it. Everybody still does it.
Well, I get frustrated too sometimes with like the event-based musician kind of industry, and not that it's bad, but it's just not, you know, it's just not a having like a full tour schedule of just like events that you're plugging into that aren't like your concerts, just kind of, I sometimes can feel like can be an inflated reality of like your success as a musician or your impact. You know, I noticed that even with Student conferences, I got to play the Student conferences the last couple summers, and like it was awesome, but I saw way more of an impact from playing shows that had 30 people.
Yeah.
Way more on social media in terms of like leads for gigs, because you're having an intimate connection with people who actually care about your music, rather than like maybe these people are listening or not in a big atmosphere, you know?
I completely agree. I mean, I think, first of all, we have awesome people joining. Hey, Marie Miller. Guys, check out him.
Hey,
Xander Waves. Ivan. Carlos. Hey, Carlos. But, I mean, I guess I started with music truly probably like 5 years ago now. It doesn't seem like that long ago. But some of the people that were at my shows, like such small shows, if we could even call them that, like that first year, they are still like my core people. Like there
right,
is a core. I mean, I don't think people realize for musicians, especially people that are independent like us, and not like signed to a label or anything. There's a core group of people, and I don't like calling them fans because I just feel like I know them so well. But
right, yeah,
whatever, people that like enjoy our music, that are fans of our music, that just stay with you from usually the very small venues or the very small like events, and I think it's just the most fruitful, and you get to, at least for me, like I get to see the same people at different events or stuff that I put on, whether it's a house show or a college show or whatever, and they're faithful to your music, and I feel like it becomes like a little bit of a family, for
it
me,
really
like just
does.
people, I get to know what their life is like a little bit, and I don't know, it makes it just real for me, whereas if I'm playing in front of 1,000 people, people can come up to me after the show and I can get to know them for like a minute. But for
Right,
me, I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that it's like, these are real people that
right,
have real lives and like
yeah,
do anything with their time. And they've come to something I'm doing. And so I always want to get to know them as much as I can, even though you can't do that all the time. Like at a
yeah,
live event, it's just not possible. But I just always really appreciate it. And sometimes the smaller stuff really does stick out and like stand out the most.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm
it's so
sure a
true.
lot of the people that were watching this, like the musicians that joined, understand that as well. Hey, Bosco Beats, Bergs Max. Small shows are way scarier because you can see people's faces. It's so true. So there was something I did not too long ago where it was like a very small group of people, and it was supposed to be. I think it might have been a house show actually. Yeah, I did a house show before all this stuff started and we had to go home, and like stay home, but still a small amount of people, maybe like 20-ish, 25. And I was actually like, there was so much adrenaline going through my body, way more than if I'm playing in front of like hundreds or
Yeah,
thousands of people,
oh,
just
yeah,
because you see their eyes looking at you, like you
yeah,
can see their reactions. It's just like way more vulnerable. So I
so
agree
true.
with that, Bergsmack.
I feel like I mean I attribute, I think that's part of the reason why I've gotten good at entertaining people is because when I started, I had to learn how to entertain a group of people with just my guitar. Like
Yeah.
everyone's looking at you, everyone is like waiting for you to do something, and you're like super nervous. You're like, oh, like I can see all of you. You can see me if I mess up. Like I feel very like exposed in this environment,
Yeah.
and I think every musician should have to start in that place because it makes you rely less on the lights and the sound and my DJ and drums, and it makes you rely on like I need to connect with these people. And as
Mm-hmm.
soon as I can connect, then like as long as I don't do anything to break that connection, I've got them for the remainder of this 45 minutes or however long, you know.
Yeah. And I think what I learned and what I'm still learning through like smaller events when I'm doing those, hey Dom.
But,
um, what I learned through that like years ago that I didn't realize was a big thing being on the stage is like having your personality come through. I think it was like trial and error for me when I first started with small shows, or even if it was like 10 people, because I realized like I could just play all my songs and that's it. But I learned how to tell the stories behind my songs and like show the heart behind why I was doing what I was doing, like let people in on who I am as Dana.
yeah.
And I also found out like in between songs and stuff, apparently I'm like somewhat funny. Like I make people laugh on stage. I do not really make people laugh in person, I
Yeah.
don't think. Like, I don't know if like something is pulled out of me, like when it comes to comedy, like on stage, but I'm a little funnier
Do
when
you
I'm on stage than not. Or maybe just like the people in my life don't think I'm funny and everybody that listens to my music does. But there's something about being with a small group of people where it makes you realize, oh, it's not just the songs that carry you, it's also just who you are as a person. You have to show your heart on stage a little bit.
yeah.
And I
What
learned.
are I mean, because you're playing pretty much primarily like acoustic driven stuff, right? Like just you, your
Yeah.
guitar. What are kind of the things that you found, or like what are the like your like Dana isms
Oh
that
gosh.
showcase like your personality? Like what do you feel like you're doing that makes your show very much you outside of like your songs?
Gosh, I was just thinking that
Because I
yesterday.
haven't seen you live yet. I mean, I've watched Instagram stuff, but I haven't had the pleasure of being to a Dana
Yeah,
Catherine
yeah,
live
and vice
experience.
versa. Same thing. Aside from seeing you on Instagram Live, I don't know. I was thinking yesterday. It's amazing how like people may see me and perceive what I do or like my quirks or whatever I'm doing differently than I do because I have a lot of blind spots when it comes to me. So I don't know. I think I'm just people seem to tell me after any talk I give and any show I do. Um, that I'm very vulnerable and I'm like extremely honest, not in like an in your face, like, oh, she's putting way too much on us
Right.
right now, like way, but I am very vulnerable with where I've been. I just tell a lot of little anecdotes and little stories about what God has done in my life or places where I found it hard to trust him. Or just places where like I have a song about identity called Maybe, and it's going to be coming out later this spring, but it's about just not feeling like you're good enough, which sounds so cliche, but I kind of write about it in a new way. And so I talk about when I moved to Nashville in August and how I felt like I needed to be thinner or more charismatic or have a better personality or be more experienced and all of these things. And so I throw in like a 5-minute little story behind some songs. And I think that's what really gets people. It's just, some people are very amazed that like in person, I'm the same person I am on stage generally, aside from
Yeah.
apparently I'm a little more funny on stage, but, and I'm like, it's because I can't be somebody I'm not. Like I have to be, I think it's a good thing. I have to be authentic and genuine to who I am.
Yeah.
So any quirks that are in person or any way I am in person, that's the way I am on stage.
Yeah.
And so I'm not afraid. And I'm also not afraid to share what I'm going through at that moment, as long as it's not too, like, I understand the line that shouldn't
Yeah.
be crossed. But like a few months ago, I was kind of going through this trial where I was finding it really hard to feel God. It was like almost like he had allowed me to have this desolation, which I knew at that point that's what it was. But I just shared that because I had
Yeah.
written a song through that. And a lot of people connected to it because it's like, this is life. Like, this is my life. I'm going to share it with you. You're a human. I'm a human. I'm not like some picture perfect person at all. So yeah.
Yeah.
But what about you? What do you think makes your shows you aside from the music? Because obviously your music's very different, especially for Catholic or even Christian
Yeah.
music or crossover, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to say in response to what you just said is something I've appreciated, especially from afar, is um, even like your posts on social media, like that, your willingness to share. Like I always, anytime you post a picture and then there's like the beginning of a caption, and it's like click like the more part, you click more and it's like my phone opens up to like a 4 paragraph like story from Dana Catherine. But it's awesome because it's always like you see a lot of people who post content just for content's sake, or like post like a eye-catching vulnerable, lyric or something, and then like you go to their page and it's just like, oh, this is just kind of like filler content,
Yeah.
and you can just tell like you have a heart for your listeners, and like you have a story that you're trying to tell even through like your simple daily social media posts. So I read them, just so you know.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate them, and there's like a sincerity that I've always appreciated to your vulnerability,
Thank you.
which isn't easy to do online. You know what I mean? Like it's not. So
Thank you
well
so
done.
much. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just normal people, and I feel like my call is a little bit more in the spotlight than other people's calls, but like, I think I could still just be a normal person and share my life with people in a way that can hopefully help them. I don't know. That's the whole point of this, So
Do
thank
you
you.
get, I've noticed too on a couple of them, you've like asked people to be like, hey, if like this is something you're in or you're going through, like shoot me a message. Like, do you get people responding that you're kind of pouring into like behind the scenes?
I do. It's usually, well, probably 75% of the time it's people that I have kind of walked with through the internet, in like an appropriate way where you're not, I mean, we can't know each other in person as it's, you know, like once again, like having the boundaries that are appropriate, but walking
Right.
through stuff with them, they'll usually reply to things and I'll just talk with them about it. Or generally, once again, like I've realized people just want to know they're not alone. So if they're
So
going through
true.
something like that, I'm like, hey, like I'm going through something like that, or I went through something like that a few months ago. Like I'm just so honest about that. And then probably 25% of the time, it's somebody I didn't even know followed me.
Yeah.
And they'll just say, hey, I'm
Hmm.
going through this thing. And sometimes it can get really, really deep. And I know though, and I'm sure you feel the same way, like when people reach out to you through Instagram or Facebook or whatever, I have such a heart for them, but I need to remember that I need to pray that the Lord brings people into their physical lives that they
Yeah.
can walk with every day that can help them. And so I always tell people, like, I'll pray that the Lord brings those people into your life if you need that right now. And
Yeah.
I will be praying for you. I'll be here to encourage you.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wish I could like reach out and like have every one of these people in my day-to-day life, just because that's my heart. And I like started out in youth ministry. So
No.
I love walking with people through what they're
It's
doing.
like
But yeah,
I'm the same way, right? Like having started out in youth ministry, it's such a blessing and a curse because it's like amazing because you just want to like build all these relationships and like walk with everyone,
yeah.
but then you can't. You
No,
know, it's like I
it's
can't.
hard, isn't it? Yeah. So, okay. One, answer the
Yeah.
question that you
Sorry. Sorry.
asked me. And then second of all, I want to know, I know we're kind of going over a little bit, but
Oh, I got
people are
you. Yeah.
saying, hey, Vigil Project, hey, we see these people posting. Um, it's just hard to read all of this stuff, guys, and then also carry on a normal
Not fun
conversation.
free. What's up, guys?
Yeah, thank you for, what did he say? He said, this is so good. Good. I'm glad we're not boring. So number one, answer the question you asked me. And then second of all, I want to know how you got into music. I want to at least end with that, because I think people are always asking me, like, how did you even start with this stuff? Like, what the
Yeah.
heck? So yeah.
Great. Wow. Great questions. Okay. So what makes my show different? Well, if I'm playing an acoustic show, which I don't do a ton of,
Mm-hmm.
but if I'm booking a tour and I have some open dates and they're just like not churches or venues having us, then I'll reach out and say, hey, like I just want to play, so like
Yeah.
let's play anywhere. Let's play at a coffee shop. Let's play at a house. So if I'm doing an acoustic show, like I'll do some like acoustic freestyle stuff where I'll have the audience call out some objects or whatnot, and I'll do like a live interactive freestyle thing. Sometimes I'll bring up people and have them be a part of it, or do like a finish the song competition, or I'll just start like a pop song and they have to finish it on the spot.
Yeah.
Just something to kind of invite them into the show and kind of break. My whole thing is like I really want to try to break the barrier between me and the audience. Um, like I get the concept of meet and greets. I get the concept of paying more for meet and greets. Like
Yeah.
it makes sense, but there's, I got to be careful saying this because I have to stick to it. But like, I really would hope and pray that if that day comes for me, like people just know that if you show up to a Connor Flanagan show early, you'll see me just hanging out.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like there's not going to be massive lines at the door. There's not like, I would just love to be known to be like, yeah, just get there early and he'll be there. Like just
Yeah.
like if you showed up to my office, like I'd be at my office working. Like now I know like that's not my life, and a lot of musicians probably have way more wisdom to speak into that because
Exactly. Yeah.
the spotlight can be crazy. But I don't know. I just have a heart for trying to break that barrier a little bit, and so doing that in an intimate acoustic setting in the live show with like all of the lights and stuff. I mean, we just put a lot of effort into that. So we have like
Yeah.
pre-programmed light show and smoke machines and smoke geysers, and but we have kind of some of the fan favorites are I have a CO2 gun.
I've
That
seen that in
is
pictures.
just a blast. It's just really, really fun. And that's like always a kind of a crowd pleaser. Like if we're playing a high school audience, that's like suspect of like, who's this dude on stage right now? Anytime I bring that out, it's like immediate builds trust. Like, oh, he's cool. He's got that. And then the other thing, which I really just did totally for myself because I was like, hey, if I were at a concert and someone threw fruit snacks into the audience, I would go crazy.
Wait, that's great.
Like whether I was a kid or an adult, like I would lose my mind and get super pumped if someone started just tossing handfuls of fruit snacks out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start doing that at my shows. And so there's like in the middle of the show, we do this like call and response, like say fruit, fruit, snack. And then we like toss out probably like 200 pouches of fruit snacks.
Oh my gosh.
We just like, we just throw them as far. I mean, we were playing at this youth rally in Toronto a couple weekends ago, and there was like an upper deck, and we were just like hauling them to try to get them up to the upper deck. But it was just like, it's so unexpected.
Yeah.
And people are like, it's something for people to talk about. They go home and they're like, yeah, maybe his music sucked, but hey, he threw fruit snacks at us, and I've never seen that done before. So that's been like a hilarious. It's just been a funny thing. Like, it's kind of become a staple, and people have loved it. And I just laughed. I'm like, guys, it's just fruit snacks, you know?
That's the stuff people hold on to, though. Like, that really is. And so, wow, that's awesome. You're so creative. I feel like the only thing I'm creative with is actually songwriting and singing. Everything else, I'm like, oh, I'm not that. That's amazing. That's so great.
It's honestly the part of my whole music journey that's the weakest link for me, I think, is the songwriting piece. Like, songwriting. Really? Oh yeah. Songwriting for me takes a ton of work. Like, it's very much like, I know people compare songwriting to like working out all the time. Like, you got to keep flexing those muscles and like working out those muscles. And it's like super applicable to my life because I have to like put in time daily to like sift through the bad ideas to get to the good ones and to like flesh out verses. And whereas because of that, I'm like, okay, well, when I do have songs, I want to create an atmosphere for them to like live in. Right. That's why we invested in the lights and do the fruit snack thing. And I love pulling all the stems of my songs apart and reorganizing them for the live show to make them feel different.
That's great.
So my creative juices get going there to help my songs breathe and live a little bit in the live setting.
Yeah. And for those of you that are watching that aren't musicians or don't understand this, because I didn't even understand like tracks and stems and all of that. Stems are basically just it's like the production part of the songs that you're listening to on Spotify or Amazon or whatever. And Connor's saying he just like moves around the parts to make it a little bit different. So it's not exactly the same thing that you're listening to in your headphones, which I love because sometimes like I went to what was it? Not Maroon 5 show, and I loved it, but it literally every single element, including his voice, which is great, but like every single element was exactly the same as what I would listen to just like on my phone. And I was like, I should like that, but I didn't come to just like be able to listen to the same thing at home. Yeah. Like I wish they did something a little, even though I love them, I'm sure their live shows are great. Like that was just one, but so that's awesome. So, okay, we're going over. I always do this because I love talking to people. So are you good with playing a song for us? Do you have your guitar near?
I totally would. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, play a song for us. I'd love to hear. I was just listening to IDK and Nothing before this, nice. But I know you have so many. So yeah, play whatever you want.
Play whatever I want. All right. All right, yeah, we'll do this one. Okay. So this song is called "Make a Way," and we actually wrote this song. I had this like lyric in my head for a long time. I wanted to use the words, "My God hopped out the grave" in a song. I was like, I want to use that in a song, and so I figured it should have like this victorious feeling. So I was like, I want horns in it. And so we actually wrote this and produced a good chunk of it on our way. We were driving down to the Carolinas for a show from Minnesota. And shout out to Abe Gross for getting up at midnight and getting in the car and driving through the night with me. But we plugged his computer into the car stereo, and he got his little keyboard out. And we fleshed out this song. So this is the acoustic version, but the song's called "Make a Way." Heart's divided, going up in flames, gotta stay on track, moving like a train across the plains of America. My place, boy, I ain't scared of. My God hopped out the grave, so I was made to break barriers. Hold up, I got nothing left but my own breath. What to do next? I'm just a mess. I'm feeling less, won't trade my joy for anything. $1 million, take a seat. Platinum record, you can leave and take my insecurity. Flashing lights, sold out shows, there's the door you can go. My hope is more important than partial fulfillment of my soul. Give me the mic, I'll show you the light. It's not because of me, I pray I'm blinded from your sight. I wish I could, I cannot stay. I feel it coming like a wave. Oh, surf's up to the grave. I'm making moves in my lane, in my lane. Hear those horns, it's the sound of victory. My God hopped out the grave, yeah, he rose to make a way for me. Hear those horns, it's the sound of victory. My God hopped out the grave, yeah, he rose to make a way. 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 Whoa, he rose to make a way. 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 Whoa. So God, I'ma let you be God, cause I am not, but the lights won't stop. It's 3 o'clock, I'm burning hot in my own skin. It's paper thin, you take me up another notch. I like to win, I like to win. A weekday, every morning, wake me up, take me over, fix my eyes, paint the picture. Who am I if I'm not with you? Harder than it seems, getting lost in the trees, sinking deeper than the seas, feeling way out of reach, but that's the moment when you break through. There is no fortress that can keep you. Oh, out of my heart, out of the dark, I give you broken pieces and you give me a new start. I wish I could, I cannot stay. I feel it coming like a wave. Whoa, surf's up to the brave. I'm making moves in my lane, in my lane. Hear those horns, it's the sound of victory. My God hopped out the grave, yeah, he rose to make a way for me. Hear those horns, it's the sound of victory. My God hopped out the grave, yeah, he rose to make a way. 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 Whoa, he rose to make a way. He rose to make a way. Rose to make a way. Rose to make a way. Whoa, rose to make a way. There you have it.
I love that. I heard that one too. I had actually never heard that one until I was listening to some more of your stuff today. I love the, like, what was that part? Partial fulfillment of your soul.
My hope is more important than partial fulfillment of my soul.
That stuck out when I was listening, like, to the produced version too. I love that. And like, also, I love how you're always talking about staying in your lane, because that is something the Lord has told me over and over. Like, Dana, just, even though your music is like definitely like seems sometimes like it's in between genres, or like, where does it fit? He's like, stay in your lane. I'm bringing you this music for a reason. And same thing with you. Like, you are so about just staying in your lane. And at least that's what I think. And I think it's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was great to catch up. And for real, like, let's get a date on the calendar to write.
Instagram is hearing this. It's a public announcement of our writing session.
We'll talk afterwards. But so I want to, for the people that are watching that are my followers, how can they find you? And do you have anything coming up? And then I'll do the same for your followers.
Yeah. How can you find me? Connor Flanagan Music here on Instagram. Same with Facebook, facebook.com/Connor Flanagan Music. My website is connorflanaganmusic.com. Yeah, I'm pretty active, especially now with this house tour. I'm posting all acoustic renditions of my songs. And so kind of what's going to be coming up next is my hope, especially during this kind of time of quarantine, is to record and put out acoustic singles for the next, like, I want to put out 15.
That's great.
Over the course of the summer. Maybe even just like one a week to start tossing them out. Pretty simple recordings, just me and my guitar. And then hoping and assuming and praying that, you know, the world finds healing and our economy gets back up and running. But I have a festival tour coming up this summer as well that I'm like really excited for, and I'm hoping still happens.
I am pumped. Yeah, I'm pumped for that. I really hope that happens, because just not a lot of people can be able to play festivals like you're planning on doing. Like
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot. I know you posted about like how much you are, so like, you persevere. so much more than I probably ever could with that type of stuff, because I'm like, are they being annoyed at me? Like, are they going to get annoyed if I follow up with them? And you are so good about that. So I pray that happens, because that's going to be awesome. Okay, well, that's everybody. Please, this is going to be on my Instagram for 24 hours. So everybody that follows me, guys, please go and give Connor a follow and look his stuff up on Spotify or Amazon. If you want to book events in the future when we can all gather, like, definitely
we'll bring the fruit snacks. We'll do it.
Yes. And for those of you that don't know me and you're tuning in because of Connor, I'm Dana Catherine. You can find my stuff just by looking up Dana Catherine on Spotify. I know I didn't sing, but hopefully you'd like it. And you can find me on Dana Catherine Music anywhere you look on the internet. And tonight I have a Facebook Live concert, and then on Friday I have an Instagram Live concert if you want to check out my music. But yeah, thank you so much, Connor. I hope you have a good day. And we're gonna put a date on the calendar today to write. We're making
Let's do it. And I've seen a bunch of people from my kind of following on here. So again, I just want to reemphasize, follow Dana while you can. I'm telling you, she's going places. Her song, Surrender Song,
That's so sweet.
My tracks. I hope I'm not hyping it up too much, but I just really believe in Dana and what you're doing and where you're headed. So
thank you so much.
I hope this is fruitful I hope I can shove a bunch of people your way.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, have a good day. Bye, guys. Thank you for joining us. We see all of you here. Sorry if we couldn't answer everything, but all right. Bye, y'all.
Peace.